Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're tackling a fascinating topic that so many people ask about, but honestly, very few actually understand from a structured biological perspective. We're looking at exactly how to change the way you sound. We're going to take what's usually just this random, disjointed list of tips floating around the internet and transform it into a highly actionable, structured routine. Specifically, we're diving into a masterclass on the 10 ways to deepen your voice. We're going to look at exactly what the source material recommends for permanently altering your vocal resonance.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're starting with the power of voice, then moving into our foundation with breathing and posture, hitting the workout with vocal exercises, checking out lifestyle and physical factors, refining the art of delivery, and finally, zooming out for the bigger picture. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The power of voice. Why a deep voice matters.
Before we get into the mechanics of all this, we really need to establish why we care about developing a deep, confident voice in the first place. Like, what's the actual ROI for doing these exercises? Well, the difference between a normal voice and a deep voice isn't just about the sound, it's about how the world reacts to you. A deep voice carries some massive psychological and social advantages. It sounds attractive and masculine, which directly translates to a pretty significant advantage in your dating life. But beyond just that, it naturally commands respect and attention. When you speak with that deeper resonance, people literally stop and listen to you. So yeah, these are real-world stakes we're talking about here.
Moving right along to Section 2, Foundation, Breathing and Posture, Setting the Physiological Baseline.
So, a deep, resonant sound doesn't just magically start in your throat, it actually starts with the very mechanics of how we breathe and hold ourselves. The absolute core of this foundation is diaphragmatic breathing. This just means breathing in a way that actively expands your stomach. It is absolutely crucial for letting out a deep voice. The source actually explicitly warns against a super common mistake, which is speaking from your neck. If you're just drawing air in shallowly and speaking from the neck, you are severely limiting your vocal potential because you're failing to engage the diaphragm entirely.
All right, let's fix that right now. I want you to try this 3-step breathing and humming exercise with me to gain some immediate control over your diaphragm. Ready? First, take a breath in, but focus entirely on making your stomach expand outward as your lungs fill. Got it? Second, start to breathe out. And third, as you release that air, start producing humming sounds. It sounds simple, right? But this daily practice trains the diaphragm and literally forces you out of that shallow neck breathing habit. It makes it so much easier to access those deeper vocal registers.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can group these next baseline habits into quick, everyday biological hacks. First up, pay attention to your tongue posture. When you speak, your tongue probably points upwards, right? Try keeping it pointed downward when you talk. Next, you gotta stop breathing through your mouth. You should be breathing exclusively from your nose. Mouth breathing can actually damage your vocal cords and, believe it or not, negatively impact your jawline over time. Finally, hydration. You have to drink plenty of water because a dry throat physically restricts your vocal cords. The source notes that you want to hydrate to prevent a croaky, damaged low pitch. So keeping things lubricated is absolutely paramount for that rich, smooth control.
All right, Section 3. The workout. Vocal exercises. Active practices for voice control.
With our foundation set, let's step into the gym, so to speak. These are highly specific, active exercises you can drop right into your daily routine to basically hack your vocal biology. First up is the pen in mouth exercise. You just take a pen, hold it horizontally in your mouth, and practice speaking, reading a book, whatever, for 5 to 10 minutes every single day. The source states this actively enhances your muscular control over your words and significantly boosts your clarity. Second, practice speaking with your nose closed. Literally pinch your nose. This naturally forces a thin, nasally voice, right? Well, your goal is to try and speak while actively avoiding that nasal tone. Doing this daily trains you to strip those nasal tones out of your normal speech, which effectively deepens your everyday voice.
Section 4, Lifestyle and Physical Factors, Full Body Biology and Voice.
We are moving way past the mouth and throat now, and honestly, this is where the source material gets truly fascinating, because it links some unexpected physical workouts directly to your vocal cords. Let me pose a question directly to you. What on earth does sprinting have to do with your voice? Seriously, think about it for a second. How could running as fast as you physically can possibly change the sound coming out of your mouth?
The answer is one very powerful hormone, testosterone. According to our source, testosterone plays a huge biological role in the actual physical growth of your vocal cords. Sprinting is actually cited as the absolute easiest way to naturally increase that testosterone. The recommendation here is to perform 3 sets of sprints every single day. But this kind of intense physical exertion brings a whole host of unexpected aesthetic benefits too. Sprinting induces really heavy sweating, which actively flushes sodium from your body. That process eliminates bloating from your face, and all that sweating even helps clear out pimples. So you're basically getting a free skincare and jawline routine while just trying to physically grow your vocal cords. It is a total full-body approach.
Sticking with physical musculature for a second, we have to talk about the neck, specifically the sternocleidomastoid muscles. I know, big word, but the source defines these as the muscles that essentially contain your vocal cords. The crucial takeaway for us here is that if these muscles are weak, they can actually narrow your vocal cords, which totally kills your pitch. If you don't actively train them, you run the very real risk of losing that deep vocal resonance we've been building. The prescribed exercises to prevent this narrowing are doing neck extensions, neck rotations, and lateral bending.
Section 5. The art of delivery. Putting it all into practice.
Okay, so you've set the foundation, you've done the weird vocal workouts, you've even sprinted for your hormones. Now, how do you actually execute all this in a live, real-world conversation? Well, I'm going to adopt the exact vocal traits recommended by our source right now. Notice the change? You must speak slow. You must use a low volume, and you must take deliberate pauses to understand what someone is saying and then reply. Conversely, the don'ts are crystal clear. Do not speak too fast. Do not speak loud. Speaking too fast and loud can actively damage your vocal cords with all that excess volume. The delivery is just as important as the biology.
All right, returning to our normal, energetic pacing here. Section 6, the bigger picture. Beyond the voice. So the really crucial point here is that we need to zoom out and look at the broader context of what our source material is actually advocating for. The source concludes with this incredibly specific quote: "Getting that deep voice is just a small piece of a puzzle when it comes to looks maxing." The author views these 10 vocal secrets not as the final end goal, but just as one single facet of a total physical and social transformation. The source explicitly mentions an entire community dedicated to covering all areas of this total transformation, the whole point being to change a person so completely that they become entirely unrecognizable from where they started. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought for you to chew on today. If a highly structured 10-step routine just for your voice is only one small piece of the puzzle, what other pieces of the puzzle will you transform next? Self-improvement is a massive landscape, and mastering your voice, well, that might just be the very beginning of your journey. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.